Well,
So this was a study done by the Society of Actuaries, right?
what the fuck is an
And they asked,
actuary?
I don't know,
I'm
that's
cursing too much, guys. I'm sorry.
it was an angry episode.
I played. Yeah, it is. It's came
An
into this
actuary is a
with-
person who compiles and analyzes statistics and uses them to calculate insurance risks and premiums. There you go.
Okay.
They asked 20 of the participating 20 of the top 21 top life insurance companies. They asked them how they determine the cause of death for the claims. 18 of the 18 that responded, 17 said they listed COVID-19 as the cause of death if it's listed anywhere on the death certificate, while 8 of the 18 said they go further and communicate with relatives and the medical examiner and look at other sources to try to determine the true cause of death. So this was kind of a study to figure out what COVID's impact was on on the life insurance sector over the past couple of years. So the report looked at claims filed under group life insurance policies during 24 months of the pandemic from April 2020 to March 2022. They used data from 3 years before the pandemic to set the baseline for the expected deaths. They did, while COVID did play some role in the majority of excess deaths for adults over the age of 34 during the 2 pandemic years, the opposite was true for younger people. 34 and younger, the number of excess non-COVID deaths was higher than those related to COVID, the data shows. So that's, I guess obviously be expected. COVID definitely affects older people way more than younger people. But what this article goes on to kind of allude to is that you started seeing these spikes in deaths right around whenever the vaccine mandate came down.
double.
Double.
Was it double? It was like double the deaths of 18-year-olds to 34-year-olds.
Yeah, let's see.
44.
During the
Adults-
third quarter of last year, deaths in the age bracket of 25 to 34 were 78% above the expected level.
Wow.
And then for people aged 45 to 50 were 80% higher than expected. And then excess mortality was 53% above the baseline for ages 55 to 64. And then I kind of jumped the gun and I read this next paragraph about how they determine whether COVID was a cause or not. So the 18 of them basically said that if COVID is listed anywhere on the death certificate, that's the cause of death. And only 8 of those 18 said that they go a little further and try and figure out, well, was COVID the primary cause of death, or did they just have COVID at the time of death, basically? One stated that it only recorded COVID as a cause of death when it could be determined to be the primary cause. So, interesting. The increase was first brought up by Scott Davison, the CEO of One America, who on a virtual press conference on December 30th told them that his company and the industry as a whole was seeing a 40% increase in deaths among people ages 18 to 64. I thought this was interesting that he said in the history, it was the highest death rate in the history of life insurance business, and that an increase of mortality of just 10% would normally constitute a 3 sigma event, a once in 200 year event.
And this
So they're seeing a rise of 40%.
Wow.
So
a once in 200 year catastrophe, a 3 sigma event. 4 of those is happening at the same time right now, at least. Once an 800 year event is happening right now.
We do have to be
the life insurance industry.
We do have a pandemic going on, but we also had this other thing that they forced everyone to take due to the pandemic that seems to be causing.
Yeah, that spike is at the spike is at the time of the release of the vaccine.
Yeah, so Edward Dowd, a hedge fund manager who'd been studying the mortality for the past several months, says the death rates among young people is alarming, and he pointed that the excess deaths peaked around the time the Biden administration mandated COVID-19 vaccines.
Wow.
Companies rushed to comply.
Whoa.
Temporarily in that 3-month period, the change was such that there was something that occurred, And we all know that what occurred in August, September, and October, it was Biden's mandates that started on September 9th.
Wow.
That led a lot of corporations to put those mandates in and anticipate those mandates.
Wow.
Yeah.
I remember that time, dude. Everybody was getting COVID and everybody was vaccinated. And everybody.
You know what's fucking shitty is that now we know that what a waste of fucking time it was to even get the fucking vaccine. You know?
Yeah.
And I got it, you know.
Me too, and I should have told my job to go fuck themselves.
Me too. I feel stupid about it now because now you have all these people having health issues from. I don't have any. Like I can't say I feel issues from the vaccine.
But like
I took the thing, I'm fine. But
yeah, I hate
even to have had to put myself at risk due to public shaming or government mandates. Fucking kind of pisses me off a little bit.
Yeah.
Considering that we now know that they didn't really look at the
and none of them are
effects of these things
Nobody
in any level of detail before forcing people to take it.
Oops, just picking my nose on there. Yeah, well, crazy. It is what it is, you know. I mean, how many times do you live through a pandemic and have to work corporate jobs where you gotta fucking do shit you don't want to do? It's fucked up.
Yeah, you know, I have coworkers that basically told them to go fuck themselves. I should have done what they did. Yeah.
Well, fuck.
But I didn't. Anyway, this article.
Fuck themselves.
Yeah, sure, of course I could, but
you didn't get the
I got
booster?
bills to pay.
You didn't
no,
get the booster?
Fuck no.
You don't wear that fucking mask.
Fuck no.
Fuck their fucking pronouns. Fuck all their stupid shit in their meetings. There's still a lot of opportunities down the course to tell them to go fuck themselves. So.
Yeah. Well, they haven't told me to go fuck myself, and ultimately, so I'm fine. Like they haven't really crossed that threshold. So, this article goes on to talk about Robert Malone. I mean, he talks about a lot of this stuff. If you listen to like his Rogan episodes and stuff like that, how excess mortality should be a signal, a trigger. If you're running a clinical trial and you see this kind of excess mortality, you stop the trial, you investigate the cause before you proceed. You typically stop the distribution of this type of drug until you have it sorted out. You know, he cited some examples of thalidomide, which is a morning sickness medication that was prescribed to pregnant women in the 50s and 60s to treat morning sickness but cause deformities in their unborn children. And then he cites cholesterol medication as another example of how in the 90s they show that cholesterol was a bad actor that caused heart disease and the numbers would drop if it be brought down. So they came out with these great cholesterol medications. People stopped dying of heart attacks, but then they started killing themselves because it caused depression, basically when you pull cholesterol out the brain. So, yeah, some interesting things that he said about all this stuff and how shitty the drug companies have been and the government when it comes to these types of things.